Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be the Combat Series episode number 105 for you guys today. And I'll be sharing my fight summary on the fight that took place in the UFC between Kamaru Usman and Joaquin Buckley. So, in the main event of UFC Fight Night, a big, massive fight that took place in the welterweight division, you saw Kamaru Usman defeat Joaquin Buckley by unanimous decision in the main event of UFC Fight Night on Saturday night in the world of UFC. So I'll be sharing my thoughts on that fight. Now, I was wrong. I apologize, Kamaru Usman. I was not familiar with your game or what you can bring to the table this late in your UFC career, being 37 years of age and taking over 600 plus days away from the octagon. Had a dominant performance against Joaquin Buckley. Didn't miss a beat. A dominant performance. I scored the fight 4 rounds to 1 in favor of Kamaru Usman over Joaquin Buckley. And it was a dominant performance from start to finish. And Kamaru Usman with the wrestling takedown, led by example, landing the takedowns on Joaquin Buckley and using his wrestling abilities to land over 12 minutes of ground control on Joaquin Buckley. And while he was in ground control, while he was on the mount, he was landing some significant strikes on Joaquin Buckley that then busted him open in the first round. And Kamaru Usman never looked back because he was in full control for the entire fight. And I thought Joaquin Buckley was going to get the better of an older version of Kamaru Usman, but I was wrong. And Kamaru Usman used his experience of getting in the octagon with several welterweights that we've seen over the last 3 to 5 years. And Joaquin Buckley couldn't adapt. He couldn't make the adjustments needed in between rounds to get himself going or put himself in position to win the fight. The only round that I gave Joaquin Buckley was the 5th and final round. Again, I scored it 4 rounds to 1 in favor of Kamaru Usman, but Kamaru Usman, he just put it on Joaquin Buckley. He landed a total of 171 total strikes in the entire fight for 5 rounds, compared to Joaquin Buckley's total strikes that he landed throughout the 5 rounds only landed 62 total strikes compared to what Kamaru Usman did with 171 total strikes landed on Joaquin Buckley. This was a great performance by Kamaru Usman. And the thing is, it was a 7-year age gap. I keep saying it, but this is the reason why one of the reasons why I leaned towards Joaquin Buckley, because the age gap. I didn't know what type of Kamaru Usman was going to come into that octagon. Being 37 years of age, we all knew the knee problems, but he looked pretty healthy in there Saturday night. And the fact that he was on a 3-fight losing streak, not being in the octagon for over 600 plus days. So I thought that Joaquin Buckley, when he was riding on a 6-fight winning streak, after putting one of the most satisfying belt-to-ass performances against Colby Covington in December last year, I just thought that Joaquin Buckley was going to have a better performance than this. I was expecting the fight to be close, but not for Joaquin Buckley to be dominated 4 rounds to 1 in favor of Kamaru Usman here. You can never count out an all-time great. And I'll take that one. That's my bad. You can never count out an all-time great. We're talking about Kamaru Usman in the conversation of being one of the greatest welterweights of all time, behind George St. Pierre in the octagon. Held the title for over 1,200 days with 5 title defenses in the welterweight division. This guy still got it. He still has gas left in the gas tank. So, outstanding performance. And during the press conference after the fight concluded, with the interviews that Kamaru Usman, the interview questions that he was getting, you could tell the emotions were running high. He was very proud of himself for pulling off this victory against Joaquin Buckley. And now he has a golden ticket to the top of the welterweight division again. He's going to get the big fights. He could get a championship opportunity as early as 2026. We'll see how the welterweight division plays out. But outstanding performance by Kamaru Usman. Should be very proud of the way how he displayed his dominance over Joaquin Buckley in the striking department and the wrestling department, landing the takedowns and getting the ground control for over 12 minutes on Joaquin Buckley, who has a pretty good wrestling background in his own right. So hats off to Kamaru Usman for this performance. But what's next for Kamaru Usman after this victory against Joaquin Buckley? There is so many big fights for Kamaru Usman at this welterweight division after he just dominated Joaquin Buckley in the main event of UFC Fight Night Saturday night. And this is a loaded welterweight division. I think this is the best division that the UFC has to offer right now. And looking at what Kamaru Usman could do next, he could get the winner of JDM versus Islam Makhachev, possibly as early as 2026 for the welterweight title fight. But if he doesn't, there is some other big fights for Kamaru Usman to have against Sean Brady, Shavkat Rakhmonov. Can you imagine that fight between Kamaru Usman and Shavkat Rakhmonov? Or Bilal Muhammad. there are some massive fights for Kamaru Usman at the welterweight division. At this particular point of his career, he looks like he hasn't lost a step, lost a beat, and he looks like he's going to be here to stay for a little bit longer in the UFC. So I'm looking forward to the next chapter of what Kamaru Usman's UFC career is going to look like. But I think he has a golden ticket to get a big-time fight next in the welterweight division. And I also want to say something, too. Kamaru Usman did say he has a plan mapped out where he wants the winner of JDM versus Islam Makhachev. I would not be surprised if it plays out the way of Islam Makhachev defeats JDM, and then Dana White and the rest of the UFC executives just line up Islam Makhachev versus Kamaru Usman, because the money is there. That's a big money fight at the welterweight division. Don't be surprised if that plays out for early 2026. And then Kamaru Usman also said he wanted to move up, if he defeats the winner of JDM and Islam Makhachev, move up to the middleweight division and become the middleweight champion, become a 2-division world champion in the UFC. So he has some bright ideas for being 37 years of age this late in his UFC career. We'll see what happens, but Kamaru Usman has everything to be proud of moving forward in his UFC career. But to close it off, what's next for Joaquin Buckley? See, Joaquin Buckley, this is not the end of the world. And this was a fight where he got humbled, and he got the experience of being in there with a true welterweight fighter, a world-class welterweight fighter, a former pound-for-pound king, the former king of the welterweight division of Kamaru Usman. So this loss will drop his stock in the welterweight division, because he was the 7th ranked contender at the welterweight division heading into this fight against Kamaru Usman. So he's going to take a dip in the rankings, probably still be a top 15 fighter, but he won't be as high as ranked 7. He's going to go down in the rankings for sure. But there is some big time fights for Joaquin Buckley. This is I feel like the next fight is a get right fight for him. That's how the UFC should treat it, against some top tier competition, because like I said, this welterweight division, in my opinion, is the most loaded division in the UFC right now. He could have a rematch against Kevin Holland. Remember, they fought each other years ago, and Kevin Holland actually knocked out Joaquin Buckley. I like a fight between Joaquin Buckley and Carlos Ortiz. I like a fight with him and Leon Edwards. There's so many big-time fights for Joaquin Buckley at the welterweight division. We'll see how this plays out. But those are my thoughts on the fight that took place between Kamaru Usman and Joaquin Buckley. That is my fight summary for you guys for the main event of UFC Fight Night.